So welcome to your show. Today is June 4th, and wherever you are, we have actually marked it here in Ghana. But before we start, I'd like for you to know that we are on Facebook. You find us facebook.com/journeys-on-TV. We have a post there, lots and lots of posts. In fact, comment on our post. We'll amplify your voice by sharing what you're sharing with us with the rest of the world. At Journeys on TV, at JN Interactive GH, at MN Toure. 3 Twitter handles all ready to retweet your thoughts and to share what you're sharing with us with the rest of the world. Journeys IM@multitvworld.com. This is our email address, 0540109009. That's our WhatsApp number. As always, JN Interactive is where tech meets news to set the agenda. So on May 15, 1979, less than 5 weeks before constitutional elections were to be held, a group of junior officers led by Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings attempted a coup. Initially unsuccessful, the coup leaders were jailed and held for court-martial. On June 4th, however, sympathetic military officers overthrew the Akufo regime and released Rawlings and his cohorts from prison 14 days before the scheduled elections. Although the SMC's pledge to return political power to civilian hands addressed the concerns of those who wanted civilian government, the young officers who had staged the June 4th coup insisted that issues critical to the image of the army and important for the stability of national politics had been ignored. The regime started a house cleaning exercise against corruption. 3 former military leaders of Ghana, Lieutenant General Lefifa, General Champon, and Lieutenant General Akufu, were all executed together with 5 other senior officers deemed to have been corrupted by special courts set up by the government. Numerous business entrepreneurs were also targeted and unlawfully had their assets confiscated by the AFRC government, including J.K. Siao. And the AFRC allowed already scheduled elections to go ahead and handed over duly elected Dr. Hilal Imam of the National People's Party what they had won, and he became the only president of the Third Republic of Ghana. There was a commemoration and wreath-laying ceremony today at the Revolution Square by the cadres of the revolution, and former President Rawlings recounts what happened 35 years ago. Let's take a listen.
Let me share an interesting event with you on that fateful June 4th. Early that morning, as the soldiers broke into the BNI area and approached the cell in which I was, they fired quite a number of shots and finally broke up the padlock. So we got out, and from there we moved to the broadcasting house, where I made that call. I was invited to join the vehicle, the pins goer, and to stand at the back. And I was flanked by some of the men that morning. As we drove out of the broadcasting house all the way down to Birmingham, exercise, activity, the combat atmosphere that I'd seen that morning into the broadcasting house was completely absent in Birmingham. Birmingham that morning as we entered was like a cemetery. I don't know why sometimes God decides to give us so many lives. At a certain moment, instinctively, I just felt a dangerous situation, and I vaulted out of the back of the vehicle, still holding onto the bar, and at that split second, a bullet hit where I was standing. I noticed the bullets that were flying at us were not hitting us, apart from the first one that was made on me. They were hitting the lower part of the vehicle, the tires, etc. And the soldiers and the airmen were still alive in the back of the vehicle. That's when I began to sense something interesting. Soldiers, some even in their underwear, out of their bedrooms with their wives and children, from the two quarters all sort of moved out, wondering what was going on, and were running away from the bullets. It was an interesting psychological moment, because at that instance, soldiers and their wives just veered into the line of fire towards the left-hand side where the armory was. At that moment, I realized that corruption had sparked the rage of this nation. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say a big thank you. This is a living monument. This is a living event. And I must therefore stretch our gratitude to the officers and the men of the armed forces and the services for the divine intervention that gave this country another breath of fresh air to breathe some freedom and justice.
So that was former President Rawlings, who was explaining perhaps for the first time what in his version happened on that fateful day. We're trying to reach Abdul Malik Jr., who is editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide, to actually help us with some answers, because he's one of the people who believed, you know, in the June 4th uprising when it happened, and because of its principles of clearing the old system and doing it over. And it's been 35 years on. So we wanted to ask him if he still believes in the mantra of truth, probity and accountability, and also to ask him if he believed that Rawlings actually lived up to this mantra of truth, probity and accountability, those principles of the June 4th movement or the uprising, and whether he also believes that the celebration that we're having today is very relevant in 21st century Ghana. And it's raining here in Kukumlemle. The lines are very terrible. We are trying to reach him, and so when we do, we will get him on the line and then ask him for clarity on all of these questions. But before we go ahead and take some of our video blogs and your comments that you've been sending through on social media, I'd like for you to look at another story that is trending on myjoyonline.com, which is our portal here for our online portal. And it's actually saying that Ibaka says, June 4th uprising, aren't you lucky you're still alive? And that's what he is asking President Rawlings. So at least this piece could shed some light on perhaps what Ibaka would have been speaking to us about should he answer his phone and talk to us. And what he is saying, he actually, and the story starts that he is a key activist in the June 4th and 1979 uprising. And he's actually saying that Flight Lieutenant General John Rawlings murdered the principals on June 4th and should be lucky that he is still alive. So perhaps it would answer the question that he doesn't believe that the man, Mr. Rawlings, actually followed that. And according to Ibaka Jr., more than 110 people were executed in the country under Mr. Rawlings for offenses ranging from economic sabotage, corruption, attempted coups, etc. And yet Mr. Rawlings failed to abide by the principles on which he carried these executions. He made the comments on one of Peace FM's Kokoko program that was today, marking the June 4th uprising, and that is what he was saying. So perhaps it would answer some of our questions that we would have had to ask Ibaka. And Kweku, quoting religious portions of the 1992 constitutions, part of which was the 1972 constitution, said he was empowered as a citizen of Ghana to use all means to resist a person or group of persons which overthrows a constitutional government, and that General Kutu Champon led National Redemption Council, which was the NRC, overthrew a constitutional government under Kofi Abrifo-Busia in 1972, but a counter-coup in 1978, which was led by Lieutenant General Akufo, meant the Supreme Military Council will rule Ghana until June 4th, 1979, when Rawlings actually took over from there. We're still trying to reach him, so at least you would have known from this piece that some of the answers would have been given in that one. I'll go to Facebook now, social media, and then take some of your comments whilst we wait for our video blogs to come in. We have actually been out there and been asking if you think that it is still relevant. I mean, 35 years old, whether you think that Rawlings lived up to the principles of the June 4th movement. The precursor is already on social media as you can see now. I think perhaps we should go and take a first block, and then when we take that, we will continue and take some comments. So in our first video blog, we are actually asking if you know the meaning of today, June 4th. Do you know the story behind June 4th? Let's take our first video blog.
From my view, what I've heard so far is about when Ghanaians made a coup and people lost their lives.
I know June 4th about our ex-president J.J. Rawlings, his revolution time. So always he celebrated to mark that day. That's what I know about the June 4th.
I know of is a day that Ghana got some uprising, that's a coup d'etat, and people were killed.
I know it to be the Revolution Day, the day actually Rawlings came in to change a lot of things, including the coup d'etat he did. That's what basically I know to be June 4th.
The time that the former President J.J. Rawlings actually overthrew the legitimate government. Yes, and the basis for which he did that was to, fight the corruption and other things that he see to him is not right, that as at the time the president was pursuing. And so that was the basis for which he did so.
That is what you will be sharing with us. Let's take some comments. We'll come back and take some of our video blogs that have been dropping in. And the precursor is already there. And we are asking, as we commemorate the day today, do you think Rawlings lived the probity and accountability principle of June 4th? And is the celebration relevant today at all? You've been sharing some of your comments. Imbo says, it's absolutely superfluous. Ooh, really? It's only in Africa that we celebrate after unlawful killings, killing of innocent people. If what he did was lawful, why did he indemnify himself before leaving office? I won't mention that one. My question is, before Mr. Probity became a president, how many houses was he living in, and how many is he living in today? God should forgive us. How on earth can you kill somebody all in the name of probity? Marian, his children attended luxurious schools abroad. Where did he get those funds to finance their education? Daniel says, I don't think it's relevant because the ideologies that the government was overthrown was not fulfilled till the 21st century. Some of the reasons are corruption, high prices of goods and services, and we are still experiencing them now. But anyway, Rawlings is a living legend worth celebrating. Saidu Marian, this issue about probity and accountability, I think Rawlings and his NDC should be dragged to court to explain to us what he meant by probity and accountability when he killed those innocent souls. And like I was saying to my colleague Smart Abe in the introduction, was that most people remember the killings and not what the brain behind all the killings. He said he killed because he wanted accountability, but a few years on, I mean, we're still suffering. My salary is shrinking. Meanwhile, the goods and services that I use that same money for are growing by the minute. And so where is the corruption that some people get money to set up things for the nation? Meanwhile, they can't account for it. SADA, need I say more? No. Suba Info Solutions, need I say more? No. But still, we're living under the NDC government, which is the baby of the PNDC. Hooray. I'll pause here and also ask in our second video blog if you think we have actually learned our lessons 35 years on from the June 4th movement. Have we learned our lessons? Do you think we have? This is what you've been sharing with us on the streets of Accra.
Coup d'etat is not the best of ruling a country, because through that people lost their lives.
Basically about corruption and like taking away corruption, but here we are now, 35 years after, and we're still corrupt. Seriously, I don't see major difference. But seriously, now we are corrupt. Ghana, probably just like 35 years ago.
The lessons that I think Ghanaians learned was about the fact that maybe when you're in government, you're not supposed to be so complacent. Anything can happen at any time, and there can be checks on the decisions you take as well. Yes, so if you are a person in power, you should know that when you're embezzling funds today, sometimes to come, you'll be made to account for it.
We have learned that corruption is not the best. If you really want to develop as a country, then we must try as much as possible to fight corruption.
Yes, that's what you've been saying. So let's go and take some WhatsApp comments now. And this is from Haley Guno. The revolution has lost its goal and has not influenced the way we behave and our institutions. Then I would not recommend this celebration. Okay. You began by saying that June 4th was due to corrupt leaders and institutions, and I recommend it to be for the present Ghana. Okay, but then if it went so, then you wouldn't recommend otherwise. I get where you're coming from. And this one is coming from Isa. You're sending this in from Wa. You're saying, Marian, the Protect president, I think this was from yesterday. Oh, it's from today, but we're actually talking about June 4th, and so I'll skip that one. This one has not been signed, so I will not take it. Amwako AJ Michael, you say, Maria, we need somebody like J.J. Rawlings to rule the country, because look at how DCEs, MPs and ministers are making fun of us as Ghanaians. Okay, and you added something which I would not take on air, and if it was the iPad, it will be projected on air, so please don't use those words on the interactive community. There are a lot of people watching, and so I guess you should tweak your comments a little bit so that they are savory for all of us. This one doesn't bear a name, so I'll move on from here. And he says, Kumasi Idris from Takrady says, June 4th is just been celebrated for fun now, because looking at the gargantuan corrupt practices going on, there could have been another June 4th if we, the youth, were not more enlightened. But the leaders of our dear nation should know that we are dying slowly. They should start being serious and face reality. And I couldn't agree with you more on that one. And this one is coming in from Inusa. You're sending this in from Tamale. Rawlings is right. The redenomination of the currency has brought untold hardship to Ghanaians. It was a myth premeditated by the Kufuor regime. Okay, that is in reference to TBS. And someone says Charlie Boy is a bray. I'm taking it because it's funny, but you didn't sign. This one hasn't been signed either. And so I'm just going to start skipping and skipping and skipping. Okay, this is from Pac from Savlugu, and you're saying the benefit of June 4th can never be dislauded in Ghanaian history, and no amount of mischief can paint it black. Okay, so you think we are rather painting it black, or some mischievous people are painting it black. I'll take my final one, and then perhaps we will take our next video blog. And this one is lengthy. I wish I could actually put it on the camera so you can see it. Read it and tell me if you think the punishment part is right. That is long. I wish the camera could see. It's so long. It would take an entire show to read this one. I'm trying to see if I can take a little bit of it. Why do we erase messages that talk about religion? Islam matters. Okay, today I'm not talking about religion. So when next we are talking about religion, I'll definitely take your comment. I'll take our final video blog, and we are asking if the event is still relevant in today's Ghana. Let's take our final video blog. We'll come and take some more comments.
I don't think it's relevant, because when celebrating June for people who lost their lives, the relatives of those people who lost their lives I mean, they remember the pain that their people went through. So I don't think it's relevant.
I think every year they used to celebrate it, and the last time when they had at the Independence Square, I was there and it was very nice. So I like it.
To some, it is. To those who actually brought up the whole thing and those who joined the movement, I think it's relevant to them. But for some of it who weren't around, who didn't participate in all these things, I don't see any relevance in it.
You know, when people hear June 4th, they tend to have mixed feelings. Yes, people feel it shouldn't have been because a lot of people went through so much trauma. So it shouldn't really have been the case. But even if they still want to make noise about things, I think it should be in a more modest way. Yes, because sometimes the comments we hear about June 4th tends to trigger and remind people of the past, and it's not really the very best.
Are we capable of fighting the corruption? Okay, so what we're supposed to do is to probably educate what strategy are we supposed to adapt to fight or to discourage the practicing of corruption in our workplaces, but not necessarily June 4th, because if you celebrate June 4th, some of them may remember the loss that they experienced regarding maybe their families who actually were murdered or killed or lost their life as a result of June 4th.
So let's take our final comments on Facebook before Nia Krofis-Matabe joins me so we can wrap up on today's show. Mohammed just says, Mr. Rawlings used the nation to enrich himself without any probity and accountability. Hence, June 4th is useless and not needed. Idris says, Papa J knows best. Okay. Mensa says, even Chairman Rawlings himself is not a happy man today because the very mess that the June 4th revolution cleansed some years back are still occurring today under his own party leadership. Corruption. Nuokbo says what triggered the June 4th is even worse today than those days, but we blindly continue to celebrate it. Funny country. And that's where we drop the curtains for today. Nia Krofis-Matabe is back so we can wrap up together.